The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Henry Williams stepped up to the podium. The human ambassador adjusted his formal blue suit and cleared his throat. Around him, representatives from over 200 alien species watched with curious eyes, tentacles, and sensory organs. Williams was not scheduled to speak today. Something was wrong. Esteemed members of the Galactic Council, Williams began, his voice steady despite the tension in his shoulders. I come before you today with a grave announcement. As of 800 Earth Standard Time, humanity has formally declared a state of war. The silence broke instantly. A wave of shocked murmurs and translator-assisted exclamations filled the dome-shaped hall. Some representatives rose from their seats, others flashed warning colors or emitted distress pheromones. Humanity had been part of the Council for only 37 years, a mere infant among civilizations thousands of years old. Yet now they spoke of war. Council leader Xarn, a tall, six-limbed being with silvery skin, raised all four of his upper appendages for quiet. Ambassador Williams, this is most disturbing. The Galactic Accord of Peace has stood for 7 centuries. Which council race has humanity decided to attack? Williams shook his head. No council race, leader Xarn. Our declaration is against an external threat, one we believe endangers not just Earth, but every world represented in this chamber. Councillor Zarvex of the Taurian Dominion stood up, her scaled head crest flaring red with agitation. Preposterous. What threat could possibly exist that the Council's combined scouting forces haven't detected? Your species has been in space for barely 2 centuries. Nevertheless, Williams continued, we have detected it. 3 weeks ago, our deep space monitoring stations began receiving unusual transmissions from the galactic rim, near the Perseus Void. The chamber's main display activated, showing a star map with a blinking red zone at the edge of the galaxy. At first, we thought it was just background radiation or equipment malfunction, Williams explained. But our linguists determined these are actual communications. Communications that, strangely, only human hearing can fully interpret. Dr. Sam Foster, the human scientific attaché, stepped forward with a data crystal. With your permission, we would like to play this transmission for the Council. Leader Xarn nodded. The crystal was inserted into the chamber systems, and a strange sound filled the room. To most aliens, it seemed like random noise, static and meaningless tones, but the human representatives visibly tensed. What does it say? Asked Councillor Jith of the Method Collective, their voice bubbling through their environmental suit. Williams looked grim. It's a warning, and a plea for help. Something is consuming entire star systems at the galaxy's edge. The message comes from a species calling themselves the Ardani. They claim to be the last survivors of their civilization. Where is the evidence of these consumed star systems? Demanded Zarvex. Foster tapped at his datapad, and the display changed to show astronomical readings. These are regular scans of Sector 9 Kappa 12, taken over the past month. You can clearly see 3 star systems that were present 30 days ago are now simply gone. A shocked silence fell over the assembly. Impossible, whispered a representative from the Silicon consciousness. Stars don't just disappear. Yet they have, Williams said firmly. And the Ardani warn that whatever took them is heading toward populated council space. We've calculated its trajectory. The map zoomed out, showing a projected path cutting through dozens of inhabited systems. Why war? Asked Leader Xarn. Why not a scientific expedition? A diplomatic mission? Williams's expression hardened, because diplomacy was attempted by 17 civilizations before the Ardani, according to their message. None survived. This entity or entities doesn't negotiate. It only consumes. He straightened his shoulders. Humanity has mobilized our entire fleet. Our colonies are preparing defensive measures. We're not asking for council permission. We're asking for council support. The room erupted again, representatives arguing among themselves. Some called the humans warmongers, Others demanded more proof, and a few quietly began checking status reports from their own border outposts. In the chaos, Leader Xarn moved closer to Williams. In 9,000 years on the Council, I've never seen a species so quick to choose conflict, he said quietly. Williams looked the ancient alien in the eyes. That's because when humans see a fight coming, we don't wait for it to reach our doorstep. And trust me, Leader Xarn, this fight is coming for us all. Council Intelligence Officer Lisa Miller walked quickly through the curved hallways of the Galactic Archives. Her boots made soft tapping sounds on the polished floor. 3 days had passed since the human announcement, and she had barely slept. The Council had assigned her to investigate humanity's claims, and what she found disturbed her deeply. She entered the secure meeting room, where 5 Council members waited. Their faces showed worry, doubt, and fear. "Officer Miller, your report, please," said Leader Xarn, his silver skin reflecting the room's soft light. Lisa placed her datapad on the table. A hologram appeared above it, showing a map of the outer colonies. 7 worlds have gone silent in the past month, she said, all at the edge of the Perseus Arm. No distress calls, no evacuation notices, just silence. Counselor Zarvex tapped her clawed fingers on the table. Communication problems happen all the time in deep space. Solar flares, equipment failure. All 7 worlds at once. Lisa asked, across different systems with different technologies. The odds against that are astronomical. The room grew quiet. Lisa continued, "We've also interviewed Captain Alan Grant of the Earth Fleet vessel Determination. His ship was doing a routine patrol near the affected zone 3 weeks ago. She played a recording. A human man with a weathered face and gray-streaked beard appeared on screen. We detected unusual energy readings," Captain Grant explained in the recording. "Like nothing in our databases. Dark energy spikes, gravitational anomalies. We thought our instruments were malfunctioning until we saw it." "Saw what?" asked an off-screen voice. "A shadow moving across the stars. Not like a ship or asteroid. More like a hole in space itself." Then the communications from Colony Outpost 87 just stopped. Mid-transmission. "We tried to approach, but our engines failed when we got too close. Had to use emergency thrusters to pull back." Lisa stopped the recording. The Determination brought back sensor data. "Our scientists are still analyzing it, but preliminary findings confirm unknown energy patterns." Counselor Jith bubbled nervously in their environmental suit. "This proves nothing. Humans have a history of exaggeration." "I thought so too," Lisa admitted, "until this morning." She played another file. It showed a partially decoded signal, the same one Ambassador Williams had mentioned. "Our linguists worked with human experts," Lisa explained. "Most of the message is still unclear, but we've translated one phrase repeatedly mentioned. The Void Eaters come." The oldest council member, Elder Pawn of the Crystalline Collective, spoke for the first time. His voice sounded like chiming bells. "In my 5,000 years, I have heard many myths about space-dwelling entities, the deep swimmers of Orion, the light stealers, the cosmic devourers, always stories to frighten young ones." "With respect, Elder," Lisa said, "the evidence suggests this is no myth." The door opened, and Ambassador Williams entered with Dr. Foster. Both looked tired but determined. "We've decoded more of the message," Foster announced. He connected his device to the room's system. "It's best if you hear it yourselves." A strange voice filled the room. It sounded pained, desperate. Even through the translation, its fear was clear. "They consume energy. All forms. Stars. Technology. Life force. They feed and grow. 17 civilizations gone. Our last ships flee, but they follow. They always follow. Your galaxy next. Prepare or perish. Weapons of light our only defense, brief though it was. Human ears hear our true frequency, found you by your broadcasts. Help us. Help yourselves." The message ended. Silence filled the room. "We've tracked the source," Williams said quietly. "It's moving toward Council space, slowly but steadily." Counselor Zarvex, who had been humanity's strongest critic, looked shaken. "How could humans be ready for war so quickly? You must have known about this threat before." Williams shook his head. "We didn't know about the Void Eaters specifically, but humanity has always prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. It's in our nature." Lisa studied the star map, noting the path of the approaching shadow. "The question now isn't whether to believe the humans," she said. "It's whether the Council will join their war before it's too late." Elder Pond's crystalline form shimmered with blue light, a sign of deep thought among his kind. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "we should see this threat with our own eyes before committing our civilizations to war." The science vessel Explorer moved slowly through the darkness of deep space. Its sleek hull gleamed under the distant starlight as it approached the coordinates where the last colony had gone silent. On the bridge, Dr. Doug Peterson checked the sensors for the 5th time in an hour. "Anything yet?" asked Dr. Vrex, a blue-skinned Taurian scientist who had joined the expedition despite his people's doubts. "Nothing unusual," Doug replied. "Just normal background radiation and stellar wind." The Council had finally agreed to send a joint scientific mission to investigate the human claims. The crew included experts from 6 different species, most of whom remained skeptical. Doug understood their doubts. The idea of star-eating shadows sounded like something from old Earth horror stories. Lena Reeves, the ship's pilot, adjusted their course slightly. "We're entering the area where Colony Outpost 87 should be," she announced. Everyone on the bridge tensed. The main screen showed only empty space where a bustling mining colony of 15,000 people should have existed. "This proves nothing," said Kelmar, a reptilian astronomer from the Draconis Alliance. "The colony could have evacuated, or your coordinates could be wrong." Doug shook his head. "The coordinates are exact, and there's no debris field, no radiation signature from a disaster, no leftover technology. It's like the entire colony, planet, and all just vanished." The sensors suddenly beeped an alert. Officer Ben Cole looked up from his station. Energy reading at 3,000 kilometers, bearing 047. On screen, ordered Captain Elena Ortiz, the mission commander. The view shifted, but showed only empty space. "There's nothing there," Vrex said. "The sensors disagree," Ben replied. "They're detecting a mass roughly the size of a small moon, but with no visible light reflection." Doug felt a chill run down his spine. Enhance the image and switch to full spectrum analysis. The screen changed, cycling through different wavelengths of light. In the infrared spectrum, they finally saw it, a perfect circle of absolute blackness against the background radiation of space. "What is that?" whispered Lena. "It's absorbing all energy that touches it," Doug said, studying the readings. "Light, heat, radiation, everything." Kelmar, who had been the most doubtful, now looked frightened. "That's impossible. Nothing can absorb all wavelengths perfectly." The dark circle began to move, slowly turning toward their position. "It's changing course," Ben warned. "It's coming toward us." Captain Ortiz didn't hesitate. Full reverse, maximum speed. The Explorer shuddered as its engines engaged. The distance between them and the anomaly began to increase, but then alarms blared throughout the ship. "Power fluctuations in the drive system," Lena reported, her fingers dancing across the controls. "We're losing energy." The lights dimmed. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing the bridge in red light. "It's drawing power from us somehow," Doug realized. "Cut the main drives and switch to emergency thrusters only." The dark circle grew larger on the screen as it pursued them. Behind it, Doug noticed something that made his blood run cold. "Look," he said, pointing to the display, behind the anomaly. They all saw it now, where a star system should have been. 3 planets orbiting a yellow sun. There was nothing but empty space and a faint, dissipating cloud of cosmic dust. It ate the star, Vrex said in disbelief. And the planets. We need to warn the Council, Captain Ortiz said. Send all our sensor data now, before. The ship lurched violently. Several crew members fell from their stations. Something's got us, Lena shouted. Like a tractor beam, but stronger. Doug made a quick decision. He grabbed the data core from the main science console. Emergency Protocol Alpha. Abandoned ship. The crew raced for the escape pods as the Explorer's hull began to groan under unseen forces. Doug helped Vrex into a pod, then climbed in himself. Through the small viewport, he saw other pods launching away from the doomed ship. What are those things? Vrex asked, his voice shaking. Doug watched as the darkness spread across the Explorer's hull like spilled ink. The Void Eaters, he said quietly. Humanity was right. Their pod rocketed away from the ship, emergency thrusters firing at maximum. Behind them, the Explorer was slowly engulfed by the darkness until nothing remained. The Council needs to see this, Doug said, clutching the precious data core. They need to understand what we're facing. Admiral Karen Wright stood at the window of Earth Space Command headquarters, watching the bustle of activity below. What had once been a civilian spaceport was now a military staging area. Cargo ships were being fitted with weapon systems. Pleasure cruisers were being converted to troop carriers. Mining vessels now carried energy shields instead of drilling equipment. All across Earth and its colonies, the same transformation was happening. Humanity was preparing for war with remarkable speed and efficiency. Admiral, the representatives from the Galactic Council have arrived, said her aide, Lieutenant Paul Davis. Karen nodded. Show them in. The doors slid open, and 5 alien delegates entered the room. They represented the Council's major powers. Their eyes widened as they looked through the massive window at the organized chaos below. Impressive, said Zarvex, the Taurian who had been most vocal against humans. Your people have accomplished in 1 week what would take most council races a year. Karen turned to face them. We don't have a year. The data Dr. Peterson brought back confirms our worst fears. The Void Eaters have already consumed 7 star systems. They're picking up speed. What we don't understand, said the delegate from the Silicon Consciousness, is how humans prepared so quickly. These plans seem too ready. Karen walked to a large table and activated a holographic display. It showed military schematics dating back decades. Humanity has always planned for threats, she explained. Even before we met other intelligent life, we prepared for possible hostile contact. After joining the Council, we continued to develop contingency plans. For war against the Council, asked Zarvex with narrowed eyes. For war against any threat, Karen corrected, including cosmic ones. These particular plans were developed 20 years ago, after our scientists theorized the possible existence of energy-consuming entities in deep space. The delegates exchanged concerned looks. Show them Project Sunspear, Karen instructed Lieutenant Davis. A hologram changed to show a massive orbital facility. Workers in spacesuits swarmed around a central structure shaped like a giant rod. This is our primary weapon against the Void Eaters, Karen explained. Based on the Ardani message, these entities are vulnerable to concentrated light energy. Sunspear collects solar energy and can focus it into a beam powerful enough to cut through a small moon. You built this without council approval, asked the Methan Collective representative. We built it to protect humanity, Karen replied simply. Now it might help protect all council races. A scientist named Roy Barnes entered the room carrying several devices. He placed them on the table. These are personal light emitters, he explained to the delegates. Every human soldier will carry one. They generate a focused beam of artificial sunlight. Based on Dr. Peterson's data, they should harm the entities. One delegate picked up a device, studying it with multiple eyes. Your species prepared all this for an enemy you weren't certain existed. Karen and Roy exchanged glances. That's what humans do, Karen said. We hope for peace but prepare for war. It's kept us alive through our entire history. An alarm sounded. Lieutenant Davis checked his communication pad. Admiral, we've received word from our outpost near Jupiter. They've detected energy anomalies similar to those reported by the Explorer before it was lost. The room went silent. They're entering our solar system already? Asked Roy, his face pale. Karen's expression hardened. We knew they would come eventually. We just hoped for more time. She turned to the council delegates. You've seen our preparations. You've seen the evidence. The Void Eaters are real, and they're here. Will the council join humanity in this fight, or will you continue to debate while more worlds die? The delegates looked at each other. Finally, Zarvek spoke. The council has always valued peace above all. For thousands of years, we've solved problems through discussion and compromise. You can't negotiate with something that wants to eat you, Karen said bluntly. Zarvek's scales rippled, a sign of deep thought among her species. Perhaps, she said slowly, there are times when even peace-loving races must fight. I will recommend that the Council formally join humanity's war effort. Karen nodded. Good, because this isn't just humanity's war anymore. It's a war for the survival of all life in the galaxy. Commander Jack Powell stood on the bridge of the battleship Defiance, watching the screens as his fleet moved into position around Colony X7. 52 human vessels formed a protective ring around the small mining colony, where 10,000 humans and aliens were being evacuated. Void Eaters approaching, sir, reported his first officer, Susan Lee. 3 distinct entities, each roughly the size of Earth's moon. Jack nodded grimly. Are the light cannons charged? Yes, sir. All ships report ready. A small delegation of alien observers stood at the back of the bridge. They had insisted on witnessing this first major battle against the threat. Jack could see their nervous movements reflected in the view screen. All ships, this is Commander Powell. Jack spoke into the fleet communication system. You've all been briefed on the enemy. They absorb energy of all kinds. Standard weapons will only make them stronger. Use only the light-based weapons, and don't get too close. They can drain your ship's power. He paused. Good luck. Powell out. The bridge fell silent as the dark shapes appeared on the long-range scanners. Against the backdrop of stars, they looked like perfect circles of absolute nothingness, holes in the fabric of space itself. They're moving faster than predicted, Susan said, her voice tight. Jack made a quick decision. Change of plans. Group Alpha, hold position and protect the evacuation ships. Groups Beta and Gamma, follow me. We're going to engage them directly. The Defiance surged forward, leading 20 ships toward the approaching entities. Sir, that wasn't the agreed strategy, one of the alien observers said nervously. The Council recommended maintaining a defensive position. The Council isn't fighting this battle, Jack replied. If we wait for them to reach the colony, we'll lose too many lives. The observer fell silent, watching as the human ships spread out in a formation never seen in Council military doctrine. They're adapting their formation to the enemy's movement, one alien whispered to another. In real time. Jack ignored them, focusing on the battle ahead. All ships, activate light cannons on my mark. The lead Void Eater suddenly accelerated, moving toward the Defiance with frightening speed. Fire, Jack ordered. Brilliant beams of concentrated light shot from the human vessels, striking the dark entity. Where the light touched, the perfect blackness rippled and distorted. It's working, Susan exclaimed. The entity is reacting to the light. But their victory was short-lived. The other 2 entities changed course, moving to flank the human fleet. Several smaller ships couldn't turn quickly enough. The Rogers and the Washington are reporting complete power loss, Susan said. The entities are draining them. Jack watched helplessly as the lights on 2 human ships flickered and died. Send rescue shuttles. Get those crews out. The battle continued for 3 hours. Human ships darting in and out, firing their light weapons. then retreating before the entities could drain their power. It was unlike any battle the alien observers had ever witnessed. Chaotic, flexible, constantly changing. 5 ships lost, Susan reported grimly. But the evacuation is almost complete. Jack noticed one of the entities moving toward the evacuation route. If it reached the civilian ships, thousands would die. Direct all remaining power to the main light cannon, he ordered. Target that entity cutting off the evacuation route. Sir, that would leave us defenseless, Susan warned. Jack nodded. I know. Do it anyway. The Defiance's massive light cannon charge, glowing with blinding intensity. The alien observers watched in stunned silence as the human commander made a decision none of their species would consider, sacrificing his ship to save the evacuees. The cannon fired. A spear of pure light struck the Void Eater. The entity convulsed, its perfect darkness breaking apart like shattered glass. It worked. Susan shouted. The entity is. Her words were cut short as the bridge lights failed. Emergency systems activated, bathing everything in dim red light. Power reserves at 3%, a crew member reported. Life support failing. Jack turned to the alien observers, who stared at him with new understanding in their eyes. Get to the escape pods, he told them. Tell the Council what you saw here. Tell them these things can be hurt and killed. Tell them humanity found a way. As the observers hurried to the escape pods, Jack looked back at the view screen. The damaged entity was reforming, but slower now. The evacuation ships were safely away. Sometimes, Jack said quietly to Susan, victory isn't about winning the battle. It's about making sure others survive to fight another day. Nancy Blackwood walked into the Grand Council chamber with her head held high. The military strategist from Earth carried a small data device that might determine the fate of the galaxy. All around her, representatives from hundreds of alien species watched in silence. News of the battle at Colony X7 had spread quickly. 23 human ships lost. 1 Void Eater wounded but not destroyed. The floor recognizes military strategist Nancy Blackwood of Earth, announced Leader Xarn, his voice solemn. Nancy stepped to the center of the chamber. Thank you for hearing me today, she began. As you all know, humanity engaged the Void Eaters in battle 3 days ago. We confirmed they can be damaged by concentrated light energy, but our weapons aren't strong enough to destroy them completely. She activated her device. A hologram appeared, showing detailed analysis of the battle. Commander Powell's sacrifice gave us valuable data. The Void Eaters absorb energy, but pure light, especially at specific frequencies, disrupts their structure. However, humanity's technology alone isn't sufficient to generate the power needed for a killing blow. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Leader Xarn raised his hand for silence. What do you propose, Strategist Blackwood? Nancy took a deep breath. I propose an alliance, not just a political one, but a technological one. Each council species has unique technology and knowledge. Together, we can create weapons capable of defeating the Void Eaters. She changed the hologram, showing a new ship design. This is our proposal, a prototype vessel called Unity, built with combined technology from multiple species. The Arcturian crystal focusing arrays, Taurian quantum power cells, silicon consciousness computing systems, human light weapon designs, and more. The chamber erupted in discussion. Many species had been enemies before joining the Council. Sharing military technology was unprecedented. You ask us to reveal our most guarded secrets, said a representative from the Draconis Alliance. Nancy nodded. Yes, because if we don't, none of our secrets will matter when the Void Eaters consume us all. The debate continued for hours. Nancy stood firm as questions and objections flew at her from all sides. Finally, a small group of council members approached. We will help, said Czar Vex of the Taurian Dominion. My people will provide the quantum power cells. One by one, representatives from 17 species pledged their support. It wasn't enough, but it was a start. 2 weeks later, Work began on the prototype ship in Earth orbit. Frank Cooper, a human weapons expert, worked side by side with alien engineers. He adjusted a power coupling while Krill Tox, an 8-limbed engineer from the Silicon Consciousness, calibrated the ship's computer system. The power flow is still unstable, Frank said, wiping sweat from his forehead. The light cannon needs consistent energy, or it won't work against the Void Eaters. Krill Tox's metallic body shifted slightly. Your human design is too linear. You think of power as flowing in one direction. And how do your people think of it? Frank asked. As a dance, a circle. Energy must return to itself. Frank paused, considering this. Show me. For the next hour, the two engineers, from species that had never shared technology before, redesigned the power system together. By combining human practical efficiency with silicon consciousness elegance, they created something entirely new. Similar scenes played out across the massive construction project. Species that once viewed each other with suspicion now worked together against a common threat. It wasn't always smooth. Cultural differences led to misunderstandings and arguments. But the work continued. On the observation deck, Nancy Blackwood and Ambassador Williams watched the progress. It's working, Williams said quietly. They're actually working together. Nancy nodded. Fear is a powerful motivator, but so is hope. A communication alert sounded. Nancy answered it, her expression growing grave as she listened. Another colony has gone silent, she told Williams. The Void Eaters are moving faster now, heading toward the core systems. Williams looked at the half-completed prototype ship. Will we be ready in time? We have to be, Nancy replied. The Council is voting tomorrow on full alliance status. If they approve, we'll have the resources of 1,000 worlds behind us. She stared out at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, darkness was spreading. This isn't just about building the ship anymore, she said. It's about building trust. For the first time in galactic history, all species might stand together as one. The combined fleet moved through space like a shining river of metal. Over 300 ships from 27 different species traveled in formation toward the edge of the Perseus Arm. At the center flew the Unity, its hull gleaming with the symbols of all Council races. On the bridge, Captain Laura Grant watched the stars streak by. As the daughter of Alan Grant, whose early warnings had gone unheeded, she felt a special responsibility to lead this mission. We're approaching the coordinates, Captain, said her navigation officer, a tall Arcturian named Zin. Laura nodded. Take us out of faster-than-light travel. All ships to battle positions. The fleet dropped into normal space near a cluster of dim stars. Sensors immediately began to buzz with warnings. Multiple Void Eater signatures detected, reported Lieutenant Olivia Martinez, who operated the special detection equipment she had helped design. At least 15 entities, they appear to be, feeding on that red giant star. The main screen showed a horrifying sight. The massive red star was visibly shrinking as dark shapes swarmed around it like hungry predators. They're consuming it faster than any natural process could explain, said Krill Tox, who now served as the Unity's chief engineer. Laura opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Captain Grant. We have located the enemy. Prepare to engage according to the battle plan. Light weapon ships in front, power generator vessels protected in the center. The fleet moved into position with practiced precision. 3 months of training had forged them into a single fighting unit despite their different backgrounds. The Void Eaters have noticed us, Olivia warned. They're breaking away from the star. Laura felt a chill as the dark entities turned toward the fleet. All ships commence firing. Hundreds of light beams shot forth, striking the approaching Void Eaters. Where Commander Powell's fleet had managed to wound one entity, this combined assault tore into multiple targets. 3 of the smaller entities broke apart completely. It's working, Zin exclaimed. But the remaining Void Eaters adapted quickly. They moved in erratic patterns, making them harder to hit. Several broke through the front line, and headed straight for the power generator ships. "Reroute power to Section 4 defenses," Laura ordered. "Don't let them reach the generator ships." The battle intensified. Ships from different species coordinated their attacks in ways never before seen in galactic warfare. Human vessels darted in aggressively, drawing the entities away from vulnerable allies. Arcturian crystal ships focused the light from nearby stars into devastating beams. Silicon consciousness vessels processed battle data and predicted enemy movements. Despite their success, the fleet began taking losses. The Void Eaters seemed endless, with more appearing from deeper space. "Captain," Olivia called out suddenly, "I'm detecting something unusual from the largest entity. It's emitting patterns similar to the Ardani message." Laura turned to her in surprise. "You mean it's communicating?" "I think so, but in a completely different frequency range than anything we've encountered." Laura made a quick decision. "Can you send a response on the same frequency?" "I can try," Olivia said, adjusting her equipment. Laura addressed the bridge crew. "Continue the battle, but I need to understand what we're fighting. Lieutenant Martinez, with me." In a small communication lab off the main bridge, Olivia worked frantically to interpret the strange signals while Laura watched. "It's not just random energy patterns," Olivia explained. "There's structure, repetition, like language." Hours passed as the battle continued outside. Finally, Olivia looked up, her face pale. "Captain, I've established basic communication," she said. "And these entities, they're not what we thought." "Explain," Laura demanded. "They're refugees, Captain. Displaced beings from another dimension. They were pushed into our space by something they call the Great Darkness. They're consuming energy because it's the only way they can survive in our reality." Laura stared at her in shock. "You're saying they're not invaders. They're running from something worse." Olivia nodded slowly. "According to what I can translate, yes. And they're terrified. The way they describe this Great Darkness, it makes the Void Eaters seem harmless in comparison." Laura looked out the viewport at the battle raging around them. "We need to take this to the Council immediately. This changes everything." "What do we do now?" Olivia asked. "Keep fighting them. Help them. They've still destroyed entire worlds." Laura's expression hardened. "We do what humans have always done when faced with the unknown. We adapt." The Grand Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from every council race filled the room. Many stood because there weren't enough seats. Ambassador Henry Williams stood at the center, the same place where he had first announced humanity's declaration of war months ago. "Fellow members of the Galactic Council," he began, "we face a decision unlike any in our history. Lieutenant Martinez has confirmed that the entities we call Void Eaters are refugees from another dimension. They consume energy in our universe because they must do so to survive here." Murmurs spread through the crowd, some angry, some confused. "They've still destroyed 7 colony worlds," shouted one representative. "Killed millions of sentient beings." Williams nodded sadly. "Yes, their survival has come at a terrible cost to us. But now that Lieutenant Martinez has established communication, we have a choice to make." The main screen activated, showing Captain Laura Grant and Lieutenant Olivia Martinez aboard the Unity. "The Void Eaters have agreed to stop consuming inhabited systems," Laura explained. "But they need our help. Their home dimension was invaded by something they call the Great Darkness, something that devours not just energy, but consciousness itself." Olivia stepped forward. "I've analyzed their dimensional readings. The barrier between our universe and theirs is growing weaker. If we don't act, this Great Darkness could find its way here." Williams turned back to the Council. "We came here months ago ready for war. Now I'm asking you to consider something else. Helping these entities return home to face their enemy there, before it becomes our enemy too." The debate lasted for days. Some species demanded revenge for the destroyed worlds. Others feared the risk of opening a path to another dimension. The council seemed hopelessly divided. Then Frank Cooper and Krilltalk stepped forward with a proposal. The Unity was designed as a weapon, Frank explained. But with modifications, it could generate enough power to open a stable portal back to the Void Eater's dimension. Krilltalk's metallic body gleamed under the chamber lights. Our calculations show we can create a one-way passage. The entities could return home, and the portal would seal permanently behind them. And what about this great darkness? Asked Leader Xarn. Are we sending them back to their doom? Williams smiled for the first time in months. That's where humanity's war preparations come in. The light weapons we develop don't just harm the Void Eaters. They could be their salvation against this darkness. We can arm them for their own war. 1 week later, the Unity and 50 support ships gathered at a safe distance from inhabited systems. The Void Eaters, 27 of them now, waited nearby, their dark forms no longer seeming menacing, but somehow sad. On the Unity's bridge, Laura watched as Frank and Krilltalk made final adjustments. Portal generators at full power, Frank reported. We'll have enough energy for one attempt. Olivia maintained communication with the entities. They're ready. They understand the risks. Laura nodded. Begin the sequence. The Unity's engines hummed as power built to levels never before achieved by Council technology. A beam of pure energy shot forth into empty space, then spread open like a flower blooming. Within it, another reality became visible, a swirling universe of beautiful colors and strange patterns. Portal stable, Frank said, his voice tense. But not for long. One by one, the Void Eaters moved toward the opening. Each carried light weapons created by the combined knowledge of the Council races. As the last entity passed through, it sent a final message. Thank you. Olivia translated. We will remember. The portal closed with a flash of light, leaving only stars where it had been. In the weeks that followed, a new peace settled over the galaxy. Species that had never cooperated now worked together on joint projects. The lessons learned in preparing for war led to advancements in peaceful technology. At a small ceremony, the Council unveiled a monument to those lost in the conflict. Williams stood beside Leader Xarn as the memorial was revealed. Your species still confuses me, Xarn admitted. You prepared for war more eagerly than any race we've known. Yet in the end, you chose to help rather than destroy. Williams looked up at the stars. Perhaps that's the greatest strength of humanity. We prepare for the worst, but we always hope for better. Across the galaxy, the newly formed Galactic Defense Force began its work, with humans in many leadership positions. Their warlike preparation, once viewed with suspicion, was now seen as necessary wisdom in an unpredictable universe.